Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Henry Harris. Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Henry Harris. So delighted and honored as always that you would take this opportunity to watch the show today. Today our special guest is Douglas A. Gragson, and we're so honored to have him here with us today. Thank you, sir, for being on the show today. Douglas is a licensed professional counselor who has spent the last 30 years helping and providing counseling to families, but you also said in regards to mental health as well, experiencing difficulties, angry teenagers and adults struggling to meet their full potential, couples trying to grow their relationships, and individuals struggling with alcohol and substance abuse. On today's program, we will be addressing one of many addictions that many people today struggle with, and that is alcohol and substance abuse. My objective today, or my method or goal today, is to spread awareness and to reach out to those who may be struggling in this area for help. And Douglas, once again, thank you so much for this opportunity, being on the show today. So my first question I want to ask you is, what is alcohol and substance abuse? To those that may be watching, a lot of people know what alcohol, but they may not know what substance is.
Well, people, particularly in the U.S. where there's a lot of methamphetamine, it can be any kind of psychedelic, alcohol, heroin, opiates, benzodiazepines, and those come in many forms, but people who are abusing those.
What is the most common drug that people use today?
I think alcohol, just because it's the most readily available. I think there's been a rise with marijuana, with the legalization, and so there's some legitimate reasons for people to use it, but there's also, I think, but it's just increased.
Oh, okay. And my next question is, why do you think alcohol and substance abuse is a strong epidemic, not just in the United States, but globally?
Well, I think that's a pretty complex question, but particularly like with COVID, we saw with the shutdown, there's quite a jump in issues with alcohol and substances. I think it is a coping mechanism that people use it to deal with stress in their life and to kind of mitigate feeling poorly. Unfortunately, it exacerbates the problem, and so people actually end up feeling worse long term. It is an easy, culturally accepted way to just kind of relax, and I think it gets the better of people to where they don't really kind of deal with their feelings and emotions, and kind of lose connection with others through it.
Okay. To the one who may have an addiction, how can they recognize that they need help? How can they become aware of okay, something is wrong, I really need to reach out for help, there's a problem?
Yeah, I think one of the criteria I use, and I ask people a lot, is this substance or is alcohol affecting your life negatively? So is it affecting your relationship? Is it affecting your health? Is it affecting your function at work? Is it affecting just kind of your general overall well-being in any way? And if that's the case, it's time to probably look at it. Some people are able to just stop, but there are a good percentage of people that really do need to reach out for help of some kind.
And for some people, it's really difficult.
Yeah, very much.
Difficult too. Now, I know I've known cases of some people that have just stopped. Maybe their spirituality had something to do with it.
Sure.
But I just think it's amazing. I know a young lady now that's been off of drugs for at least more than 10 years, several years now. And for her, her spirituality helped her to overcome that. But for somebody else, there may be other avenues or other ways to do that. So what are some ways that you can think of that could help someone to, I wouldn't say cope with it, but just to start the recovery process?
Yeah. I think counseling's a good step. There's a lot of good counselors around Springfield area that help people, but that does cost money, and if alcohol or drugs has really ravaged somebody's life, that sometimes is an issue. But there are sliding scale places. But what's free is NA and AA, and those aren't the only ways to get sober, but they are free, and there's a place that you can go where other people are struggling with the issue. What I kind of tell people about that is A and NA is not just going to meetings. There's a lot more to it, and sometimes people go to a meeting and go, "Oh, I don't like that," but it's about the relationships they have and getting a sponsor and working the steps and engaging that program really can change people's lives for the better.
For an individual that's trying to recover, I think this is a very important question. For an individual that's trying to recover, how important is it for them not to associate themselves in certain places and environments as it relates to temptation?
It's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very important. It's one of the foundational things that any recovery program will kind of tell you is that
you got to kind of change your whole.
Yeah, it's a whole lifestyle change, and some friends will probably have to go away. They're really probably more drinking or using friends, and they're not really kind of more emotionally connected friends.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of learn to recognize who those people are, but also places. Obviously, if you're an alcoholic, going into a bar is a struggle.
Yeah.
Things like that.
How easy is it to fall back into it, though? Do they call that relapse? Is that
Yes.
what they call it?
Yeah, and there's a statement within the recovery world that relapse is part of recovery, and it's because it's hard, and a lot of people will relapse, and that doesn't mean that they're going to stay there. I think what recovery can do, and whether it's counseling or inpatient therapy or outpatient therapy or NA or AA, what those tools can do is help people respond better when they do have a relapse to get back on track.
As it relates to alcohol and substance abuse, how much is too much? Like maybe somebody's drinking and they may not know that they're an alcoholic, but they may not be aware of it, as we talked about earlier.
Sure.
Is there a balance or discipline or any type of accountability? I mean,
how's that determined?
Yeah.
Well, again, I go to the question, is it negatively impacting your life? But, I mean, there are medical diagnoses for this in the, DSM-5 and the ICD-10. And, there's various, kind of, I guess, criteria for that. But, generally, if somebody is a daily drinker, that's probably not good.
Yeah. You mean drink every single day?
Yeah, to where somebody is consuming alcohol every day, that is going to probably, build up in time. If people, they kind of talk about people that are using it on a daily basis, maybe they're not getting blackout drunk or something like that, or, really inebriated, but they can still be an alcoholic or an addict, with a substance. But then there's people who binge, and so then they may not drink all week, but they hit Friday and Saturday night, and they're blacking out, and that probably meets that criteria.
You mentioned something about how it affects lives. Can you give us a couple of examples of that, of how alcohol and substance abuse can affect not just their lives personally, but other people's lives around them?
Yeah, addiction.
I know marriage is one of them. I've seen marriages break apart.
Families. Yeah, I mean it. Parents with kids who are addicted to like methamphetamine or addicted to opiates. People end up in prisons. They end up, living on the street. Families are torn apart because of it. If a parent is an addict, children suffer and are going to need help because they're not getting their emotional needs met. I've known people who've gone from, very wonderful lives to really living on the street. It can just tear you apart. It can lose track.
And my last question is alcohol and substance abuse, is it generational or is it a choice? Because I know some people, like their dad was an alcoholic, and then the son turns out to be one, and then his son. It's like, is there a choice? Is it just based off of what they saw? Is it generational, or do you think it's a choice, or a little bit of both, or what?
Well, they kind of talk about nature versus nurture, and so what that means is I think there's a belief that there is a predisposition, that there's a genetic predisposition for people who have addiction in their family, and so it doesn't necessarily mean that immediately that person's going to be an addict, but they are more predisposed to becoming an addict or alcoholic. So it is definitely a red flag. People want to be really careful if that is in their history. But if you're also raised that drugs are being done all around you all the time, yeah, sometimes that's just teaching somebody how to manage and cope in their life. So I don't know. Choice, I guess, is a part of it, but sometimes if you're young, you really don't have a choice. You're kind of learning and being programmed. So that's
Thank you so much, Douglas. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah.
What a wonderful show. For more information about alcohol and substance abuse, you can visit www.usa.gov. They provide information and assistance in regards to mental health treatments, and also in regards to what we are talking about today. If you live locally here in Springfield, Missouri, Douglas, he is a therapist, a licensed professional counselor therapist, and you can reach out to him at 417-988-3716, or you can visit acceptancecounselingassociates.com. God bless you, and have a wonderful week.
We hope you have enjoyed today's program. We want to connect with you. Visit us at facebook.com/The Brother Henry and You Show, or visit us on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Henry Harris 100. We're so grateful you tuned in today and hope you have a fantastic day.